Caitlin Clark versus Angel Reese. It started with a hand wave. Caitlin Clark's "You Can't See Me" in March Madness. Angel Reese giving it right back in the national championship. That wasn't just a taunt, it was a spark. Overnight, this wasn't just two hoopers competing. It was a storyline the media couldn't resist. Bird versus Magic. Villain versus hero. Clark's limitless shooting range and Iowa's Cinderella run made her America's sweetheart. Reese's unapologetic firepower made her the bad guy in too many headlines. And that's the problem. It wasn't just basketball, it became cultural. Fast forward to the WNBA. Clark gets drafted first overall, sold as the savior of the Fever. Reese heads to Chicago, bringing swagger to the Sky. Now every Fever Sky matchup is a mini pay-per-view. Hard fouls, refs blowing whistles, fans dissecting every replay like it's a court case. And the players? They play into it, because how could they not? Clark gets hammered by defenses. Reese cleans the glass and flexes. Every game becomes another chapter. Are they truly enemies? Maybe not behind the curtain, but in the spotlight, they're carrying a rivalry that feels bigger than themselves. Here's the real kicker. This isn't going away, because the league needs it. The WNBA is in a new era where stars drive conversation, and Clark versus. Reese is the engine. They're not just opponents, they're marketing gold. But at what cost? Lauren Jackson versus Lisa Leslie. Before Clark and Reese, before super teams, before social media, this was the rivalry. Lauren Jackson, the Australian prodigy, tall, tough, unapologetically physical. Lisa Leslie, the American superstar, the first face of the WNBA, smooth, elegant, and dominant. Their collision course was inevitable. The defining moment came at the 2000 Olympics in Sydney. Leslie and Team USA were steamrolling. Jackson, just 19, was fearless, fiery, and not backing down. Then, she pulled Leslie's hair extensions. Petty? Yes. Memorable? Absolutely. Suddenly, this wasn't just USA versus Australia. It was Leslie versus Jackson. The WNBA picked up where the Olympics left off. Sparks versus Storm was war. Leslie repping the old guard, polished, celebrated, marketed. Jackson bringing something raw, international, and disruptive. Jackson's bruising game clashed with Leslie's skill in the post, and every matchup dripped with tension. This wasn't just a clash of styles. It was a fight for the throne of women's basketball. And here's the thing, both wanted to be the face of the sport. They respected each other, sure, but respect doesn't erase the scars. Leslie once said Jackson hit harder than anyone. Jackson called Leslie the toughest matchup of her life. You can package that as admiration, but make no mistake, each wanted to erase the other's name from history books. Kahleah Copper versus Sophie Cunningham. Some players clash because the game demands it. Others clash because they just can't help themselves. Copper and Cunningham? Both. The finals brought them together, and it was chaos every time. Copper, the fearless scorer, attacking like every possession was life or death. Cunningham, the agitator, never afraid to stir the pot, throw a bump, or talk smack. Put them on the same floor and sparks flew. Cunningham thrives on being hated. Fans boo her, opponents jaw at her, and she eats it up. Copper doesn't do theatrics, she does production. And every time Sophie tried to rattle her, Copper answered with buckets. The physical play escalated to elbows, hard fouls, and stare downs that lived on social media long after the games ended. Fans loved it because it was pure conflict. But here's the catch. Rivalries like this aren't about trophies or dynasties. They're about energy, and nobody watching those games could miss the edge. This wasn't polite competition. This was raw, personal, and unforgettable. When fans look back at those finals, they don't just remember the winner. They remember Copper versus Cunningham. That's the kind of beef you can't fake. Sparks versus Shock, Parker and Pearson, 2008, Candace Parker's rookie season. The hype was massive. She was supposed to be the next face of the league, but the Detroit Shock weren't impressed. They were the bruisers of the WNBA, led by Plannette Pearson. That summer night, Sparks versus Shock turned from basketball into bedlam, a hard foul, some pushing, and then all hell broke loose. Benches cleared, punches flew. Fans couldn't believe it. This was the WNBA's own Malice at the Palace. For Parker, it was her welcome to the league moment. You don't just stroll in and take the crown. For Pearson, it was her statement. Toughness still runs this game. That fight didn't just stain the night, it cemented a rivalry. Spark Shock became must-watch, not because of skill but because of animosity. The league tried to sweep it under the rug, suspensions, fines, warnings. But the damage, or maybe the blessing, was done. That fight showed the WNBA wasn't afraid to get ugly, that the passion ran just as hot as any men's league. And years later, fans still talk about it. Sparks versus. Shock wasn't just a rivalry, it was a reminder. This league has fire. Kelsey Plum versus Golden State Valkyries. When the WNBA announced expansion to Golden State, everybody expected excitement. What they didn't expect was friction. From the first meeting between the Aces and the Valkyries, it was clear this wasn't just business, it was war. The moment that defined it, a flagrant foul against Kelsey Plum. Not an accident, not just playing hard. It was a statement. Welcome to San Francisco. We don't care about your rings. Plum is fiery, competitive, and never afraid to let her emotions show. She jawed back, glared down defenders, and made sure her voice carried across the floor. The Valkyries fed off their new crowd, building identity through physical play, toughness, and refusal to bend against the champs. It was the perfect storm. Plum representing the established elite, the Aces empire in full swing, versus Golden State's hungry newcomers trying to carve out space. Fans didn't forget. Overnight, Aces Valkyries became one of the hottest tickets. Every possession feels personal. Every whistle gets questioned. And Plum, she won't let it slide. For her, Golden State isn't just another opponent, it's an intruder trying to crash her kingdom. That flagrant wasn't just a foul, it was the birth of a rivalry. Aces versus Liberty. This is the WNBA's arms race. Super team versus super team. The Aces came first. Aja Wilson, Kelsey Plum, Chelsea Gray, Jackie Young. Dominant, cocky, championship tested. Then came the counterpunch. Breanna Stewart to New York. Jonquil Jones. Sabrina Ionescu. Courtney Vandersloot. Suddenly, the league had two monsters at the top, staring each other down. The finals made it real. Vegas won the first battle, and New York couldn't stand it. The Liberty had been built to dethrone the Aces, and failing on the biggest stage only sharpened the edge. Every matchup since has dripped with tension. Players know they're fighting for more than one game. They're fighting for legacy. Who owns this era? The games are brutal. Hard fouls, trash talk, every bucket punctuated with emotion. Sabrina hits a deep three, she lets you know. Aja swats a shot, she screams it in your face. And the fans, they eat it up. Vegas versus. New York feels like Lakers Celtics all over again. Two titans colliding with everything at stake. The truth is simple. These rosters weren't just built to win, they were built to beat each other. And until somebody else rises, the league runs on this fire. Liberty versus Lynx. The Lynx used to own the league. Maya Moore, Sylvia Fowles, Lindsay Whalen, Simone Augustus. 4 championships in 7 years. The dynasty of the 2010s. The Liberty? They were always chasing. Talented, yes, but never able to break through. That history created a shadow that New York couldn't escape. Now the script has flipped. The Liberty are the new juggernaut. Stewie, Sabrina, Jonquil. They're loaded, they're winning, and they want respect. But Minnesota refuses to fade. Nafisa Collier is carrying the torch. Diamond Miller is coming, and the Lynx fan base still screams dynasty pride. When these two meet, it's never just about standings, it's about identity. The fans fuel it as much as the players. Liberty fans brag about the super team. Lynx fans fire back with count the rings. Every game becomes a measuring stick. Are the Liberty truly building a dynasty, or are they just frontrunners until Minnesota strikes again? This rivalry doesn't need brawls or hair pulls to burn. It's deeper than that. It's history. It's envy. It's the tension between a team trying to cement its present and a team guarding its past. And every matchup feels like a tug of war for the league's soul. Fever versus Sky. On paper, this was never supposed to be a rivalry. 2 rebuilding franchises, 2 Midwestern markets. Nothing special. But then came Caitlin Clark, then came Angel Reese, and suddenly, Fever versus. Sky is must-see basketball. Clark brought the spotlight, national TV, record-breaking crowds, and expectations through the roof. Reese brought the attitude, fearless, unapologetic, and determined to prove she belonged. Their college clash carried straight into the pros and now Indiana versus. Chicago feels bigger than either team's record. Every game is a circus. Clark gets knocked down. Fans call it targeting. Reese grabs a board and flexes. Her fans call it dominance. Her critics call it arrogance. Social media goes to war with every clip. The players feel it. The tension isn't fake. Clark wants to prove she's more than hype. Reese wants to prove she's more than a villain. Their teams? They're dragged into the storm, whether they like it or not. This isn't a rivalry built on banners. It's built on eyes. And right now, no matchup in the league draws more attention. Fever versus. Sky isn't just basketball. It's culture. It's narrative. It's war. Caitlin Clark versus Sabrina Ionescu. This one is sneaky, but it might end up defining the WNBA's next decade. Caitlin Clark is the rookie phenomenon, carrying Indiana on her back, breaking attendance records, and hitting logo threes like it's routine. Sabrina Ionescu is the established young star in New York, already an all-star, already a three-point contest champion, already the face of a super team. Their games overlap, their hype overlaps, their spotlight overlaps. And overlap breeds friction. Fans fuel it. Clark's people say she's already the better shooter, already carrying more weight, already the bigger draw. Sabrina's campfire's back. She's been doing this in the league for years. She's battled in the finals. She's proven herself against the very best. Put them on the floor together and you can feel the tension. Who controls the backcourt spotlight? Who really owns the shooter's crown? Their rivalry echoes their college clash. Clark at Iowa, Ionescu at Oregon. Different eras, same narrative. And while the media spins it as mutual respect, the truth is obvious. There's only room for one face of the future guard. Every three-pointer they trade is more than a bucket, it's a statement. Tamika Catchings versus Swin Cash. Before Clark and Reese, before Aces versus Liberty. This was the rivalry. Catchings and Cash went head-to-head in college. UConn versus Tennessee. The battles were legendary. Physical, emotional, two stars who wanted the same thing, to prove they were the toughest competitor in the building. That fire carried into the WNBA. Catchings, the heart and soul of the Indiana Fever, played like every possession was war. Swin Cash, versatile and clutch, was the engine behind championship runs in Detroit and later in Seattle. Their paths kept crossing, in regular season clashes, in playoffs, in finals, and every time the matchups delivered. This wasn't hate. This was something sharper, respect born from pain. Every collision, every bucket, every series left scars. They didn't jaw at each other like today's stars. They didn't need to. Their play spoke for them. Fans knew, when Catchings and Cash squared off, you were about to watch two warriors who would rather collapse on the floor than concede ground. The legacy? They set the standard for what a rivalry with respect looks like. And to this day, fans argue, who was the tougher competitor? AJ Wilson versus Brittney Griner. This is generational. Brittney Griner came first, the 6'9" force of nature who changed how post play looked in the WNBA. A dunking, shot-blocking, rim-controlling presence unlike anything the league had seen. Then came Aja Wilson, smaller but faster, craftier, and every bit as dominant. The second she rose to MVP status, the comparisons began. Fans and analysts pit them against each other constantly. Who's the real best big of their era? Who should get MVP votes? Who would you build around? Their games couldn't be more different. Griner is pure size and intimidation. Wilson is skill and versatility, but that only fuels the debate. Every matchup feels like proof. Griner swats a shot? See, she's still the queen. Wilson drops 30? She's the new face. What makes it sting deeper is that neither can fully escape the shadow of the other. Griner's legacy is tied to dominance, but also survival after her detainment in Russia. Wilson's story is tied to championships in Vegas and the burden of being the league's most marketable star. They don't need to hate each other. The rivalry exists because the league won't stop comparing them. Sue Bird versus Diana Taurasi, best friends, teammates on Team USA, legends who built UConn into a dynasty, and yet, one of the most quietly fierce rivalries in league history. Sue Bird was the cool, composed floor general in Seattle. Diana Taurasi was the fiery, gunslinging scorer in Phoenix. Together, they were unstoppable. Apart, they went at each other like family fighting for dominance. Their games clashed perfectly. Bird orchestrated, made everyone better, picked defenses apart. Taurasi attacked, shot from anywhere, and thrived on being the villain. When they faced off, it wasn't just Storm versus Mercury, it was Bird's steady brilliance versus Taurasi's chaos. Fans loved watching them hug before games, then rip each other's throats out once the ball went up. The irony? Their careers are inseparable. Teammates in gold medal runs, opponents in finals classics, friends off the court. But that friendship never dulled the edge. Bird wanted to prove she could control any game. Taurasi wanted to prove she could take over every game. Their rivalry was never about hate. It was about proving greatness to the one person who knew you best. And that's why it cut so deep. Sheryl Swoopes versus Lisa Leslie. Before the Clark-Reese era, before Bird and Taurasi, before the Liberty Aces arms race, this was the original face-off. Sheryl Swoopes and Lisa Leslie weren't just stars, they were foundations. The WNBA's launch in 1997 needed names, needed icons, needed storylines. Enter Swoopes and Leslie. Swoopes, the Houston Comets' dynamic guard forward, was a three-time MVP, tenacious defender, and the league's first signature athlete. Leslie, the Sparks' towering center, was the smooth, polished post player who became the first woman to dunk in a WNBA game. Their styles clashed, Swoopes fast, relentless, surgical, Leslie dominant, methodical, commanding the paint. Every Comets-Sparks matchup was marketed like an event because it was more than a game, it was a battle for the crown. The Comets won early, 4 straight championships. Swoopes had the jewelry and the bragging rights. Leslie, she carried the burden of being the league's most marketable star without the rings to back it up, until the Sparks finally broke through in 2001. That win flipped the narrative. Suddenly, it was Leslie's turn to claim the spotlight. This wasn't fake. This wasn't media created. This was 2 women competing for supremacy in a brand new league. Legends because of their talent. Rivals because only one could stand on top. Angel Reese versus Paige Bueckers. Not all rivalries are born in hate. Some are born in hype. Reese versus Bueckers fits that mold perfectly. Paige, the UConn prodigy, became the face of women's hoops before she could legally buy a drink. The smooth jumper, the calm confidence, the Golden Girl media treatment, it all felt inevitable. Angel Reese? She came later. She came harder. LSU's championship run made her a cultural force, a polarizing figure who thrived on being underestimated. Their rivalry isn't about physical clashes, it's about perception. Paige is finesse, Angel is power. Paige is America's sweetheart, Angel is the disruptor. Their fan bases mirror that split. One side praises Bueckers' polish, the other worships Reese's grit. Every time they're mentioned in the same breath, the debate lights up. Whose game translates better? Who's the real star of the next generation? Here's the twist. They've shown nothing but respect for each other on the court. No bad blood, no taunts, no highlight reel beef. But that doesn't stop the narrative, because the hype machine doesn't care about kindness, it cares about contrast. And in Paige versus Angel, the contrast couldn't be louder. Aaliyah Boston versus Cameron Brink. The draft is where this rivalry began. Aaliyah Boston, South Carolina legend, national champion, and the Fever's #1 pick in 2023. Cameron Brink, Stanford's versatile star, touted as the future of two-way dominance, and circled as one of the crown jewels of the 2024 draft. From the moment Brink was projected, comparisons flew. Who's the better franchise cornerstone? Who owns the spotlight? Boston had the head start. Rookie of the Year, double-double machine, a paint presence that gave Indiana its first hope in years. Brink entered the league with hype but also questions. Could her shot blocking and versatility translate at the pro level? Boston was already proving it, which only made fans louder. Every highlight of Brink came with the same question. Is she catching Boston yet? The truth? These two don't hate each other, but they represent something deeper, a race for dominance among the new generation of bigs. Their names are tied together not because of personal beef, but because they symbolize the Fever's gamble versus the future draft prize. Every meeting between them feels like scouting tape for the league's future, and you can bet the fan bases won't let it rest. Caitlin Clark versus A'ja Wilson. This one isn't personal, not yet, but it's brewing, and the media won't let it go. On one side, Caitlin Clark, the rookie phenom, the ticket seller, the TV magnet. On the other, A'ja Wilson, the MVP, the two-time champion, the established queen of the league. Rookie versus veteran, new hype versus proven dominance. That's the story every network runs with. Every time the Fever play the Aces, the narrative takes over. Clark has to prove herself against the best. Wilson has to defend her crown against the newcomer. Fans online frame it like a battle for ownership of the WNBA's future. Is it Caitlyn's league to inherit or Aja's league to keep? And let's be clear, Wilson isn't backing down from that narrative. She's openly said she feels overlooked at times, especially in the media frenzy around Clark. That sting only sharpens the edges. On the floor, the tension is obvious. Clark's deep shooting versus Wilson's inside dominance. Clark's rookie mistakes versus Wilson's veteran Polish. One plays with speed, the other with power. Every matchup feels like more than a game. It feels like a referendum on where the league is headed. And one thing's certain, neither plans to bow out quietly. Angel Reese versus Kelsey Mitchell. Here's one you don't always see plastered across ESPN, but it simmers under the surface. Angel Reese and Kelsey Mitchell are both scoring guards who play with fire. Different teams, different paths, but their styles and their fan bases clash hard. Mitchell, long overlooked in Indiana despite being one of the league's purest scorers, has carried the fever through dark years. She built her name without hype, without the constant cameras, just buckets. Then comes Reese, polarizing, magnetic, drawing eyes and opinions everywhere she goes. Their rivalry isn't born in a single play or viral clip. It's rooted in identity. Mitchell's supporters feel like she's underappreciated, overshadowed by newer stars like Reese. Reese's supporters see her as the new standard of toughness, the one who owns every arena she walks into. When their paths cross, the contrast is impossible to ignore. Mitchell's smooth offensive arsenal versus Reese's bruising, emotional impact. Both demand respect. Both carry chips on their shoulders. And while they don't trade barbs publicly, their games do the talking. Every bucket feels like a challenge. Every possession like a chance to prove who deserves more shine. It's not the loudest rivalry, but it's one of the most raw. Cameron Brink versus Paige Bueckers. This one is straight out of the media-built, fan-fueled category. But don't get it twisted, it's real. Cameron Brink and Paige Bueckers have been compared since their college days. Both top recruits. Both faces of powerhouse programs. Both marketed as the next big thing. That overlap turned into tension before either even played a WNBA game. The draft conversations only poured gas on it. Would you rather have Brink or Bueckers? Which one is more franchise-changing? Brink, with her size and rim protection, projects as the defensive cornerstone every team wants. Paige, with her silky offensive game and shot creation, feels like the guard you build a team around. Fans debate endlessly. One side swears by Brink's two-way dominance, the other claims Bueckers is the ultimate star guard. On the court, the rivalry hasn't hit full boil yet, but when it does, expect fireworks. Because these aren't just two players, they're symbols of directions. Brink represents defense, size, and new school versatility. Bueckers represents finesse, shot-making, and the UConn legacy of guards who take over. Every meeting will be measured, dissected, compared, and neither one can escape it. Sue Bird versus Diana Taurasi again. Yes, this one deserves a double entry, because no rivalry in the WNBA carried more layers than Sue Bird versus Diana Taurasi. Friends, roommates, teammates, icons. Yet also, competitors who constantly wanted to prove they were the alpha. Team USA made them legends together. 4 Olympic golds side by side. But the WNBA? That was different. Bird was Seattle's foundation, the ultimate steady hand, who quietly built one of the greatest resumes in basketball history. Taurasi was Phoenix's gunslinger, breaking scoring records, winning MVPs, and living for the big shot. Every time the Mercury and Storm clashed, it was like watching two sisters who loved each other, but wanted bragging rights for life. What made this rivalry special was how personal it felt. Bird versus Taurasi wasn't just about buckets, it was about leadership, about identity. Bird made you believe in her control. Taurasi made you fear her fire. And while fans debate who had the better career, the truth is this: they defined each other. No Bird without Taurasi, no Taurasi without Bird. Best friends, bitter rivals, the league's heartbeat for 2 decades. Brittney Griner versus A'ja Wilson. This one is about eras colliding. Brittney Griner, the game-changing big who entered the league as the most hyped prospect since Lisa Leslie, versus A'ja Wilson, the MVP who has redefined what dominance looks like. Both are icons, both are leaders, and both are locked in a tug-of-war over whose style defines the modern WNBA. Griner, at her peak, was untouchable, blocking shots into the stands, dunking with ease and bending defenses around her 6'9" frame. Wilson, meanwhile, dominates differently, quicker, more versatile, punishing with mid-range jumpers and defensive footwork that makes her nearly unstoppable. When they meet, it feels like watching two generations argue in real time, the towering center versus the hybrid forward. There's respect, yes, but don't think that means it's soft. Wilson knows every time she faces Griner, she's proving she can carry the torch against the league's most imposing big. Griner knows every matchup against Wilson is a fight to remind people she's still here, still elite, still capable of being the most dominant force in the league. And when they collide, you can feel the weight of history pressing down. Two legacies, two play styles, one court. Who's the real standard bearer of this era? The debate rages every time.